What if I told you dungeons are back? Well, I can't tell you that. I can only speculate. But I think there's strong evidence to suggest that we might see dungeons return in Tears of the Kingdom. One reason I believe we might see this is because a big chunk of the fan base was disappointed with shrines and the divine beasts, myself included. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they were awful. I definitely had fun solving these puzzles, but the shrines and divine beasts were just missing something. They were also empty and exactly the same. Sure, there were different mechanics being tested between the shrines and beasts, but they all shared the same aesthetic. After multiple playthroughs of Breath of the Wild, the ancient Sheikah tech is tired. But then again, many felt the same way about elemental-based dungeons and the classic format of puzzle, item, puzzle, boss from previous games. Maybe it's just me, but I prefer the latter. And I don't see why we couldn't bring that traditional dungeon experience to Tears of the Kingdom. But that's really just an opinion on how the last game was perceived. But what about physical evidence from this game? I think one of the most obvious places to start is the Sky Islands. There's a ton of unique structures in the sky this time, and most notably this tall tapered structure and the moon?
That's no moon.
If anything in this game was going to be a dungeon, it would be these. In Breath of the Wild, you don't really see too many big structures like this, excluding Hyrule Castle and the shrines, which were just vast empty spaces. There was the Yiga clan hideout, but it was pretty short and simple. Best boss fight in the series though. Anyways, having these new massive structures really lends itself to the idea that dungeons are back, along with a couple of other things we've seen. There's a few videos out there which are claiming that this giant box construct is actually a boss fight for a dungeon. Now, I don't know how reliable all these leaks are. I haven't even seen the art book leaks that have been floating around. But if this is true, then this is big news. We have proper boss fights this time, which again lends itself to the idea that dungeons are back, if you consider how things were done pre-Breath of the Wild. And keeping in line with that same train of thought, there's something else very similar to previous entries in this series, and that is the number 7. In the official trailer we got back in September, you can see there are 7 objects surrounding this entity in the mural. It seems most people agree that this entity is Hylia, and these objects are the Tears. Now, in my last video, I speculated that these Tears could be used along with the new fusion ability to repair the Master Sword due to their divine nature. And that's still quite possible, but what if these Tears aren't Tears at all? That's where the number 7 comes in. The Sages! You see, the Sages have been a long-running concept in Zelda. They've appeared in just about every Zelda game in some form or another. In some games there are only 6, and in others 2, but most commonly there are 7 Sages. Once you start connecting all of these dots, it starts to paint a picture. The Sages are going to be trapped in their dungeons again, much like Ocarina of Time, or even like the champions in the Divine Beasts from Breath of the Wild. And maybe these Tears are the Sages themselves. Or possibly, the Tears are the items that allow us to gain new abilities with Link's new arm. Instead of locking progression behind items in the dungeons, progression could be locked behind abilities we gain through the Tears. Nintendo already tried this approach once. That was the plan for the medallions in Ocarina of Time, but it was scrapped before the game was released. So it's not too wild to think that they would try something like that again. This could easily explain how you can keep the freedom of exploration that Breath of the Wild is known for and still have a linear story. You can go anywhere on the ground in Breath of the Wild, but with the Sky Islands, suddenly you have places you can't reach through normal means. We will not be able to glide from island to island, or use stasis on a log to fly through the air. We are going to slowly unlock new abilities that allow us to use things like the recall ability to ride a fallen rock back into the air, or fuse parts together to make some sort of craft to get to the next island. There's also Ascend, which is no doubt going to be handy for reaching difficult places. When you take all of these things into account, I think it's pretty clear that dungeons are making a comeback in some form, or at least I hope. We're just going to have to wait until the game releases to find out. In a month from now, I might sound like a crazy nut job. With everything still being so vague, all we can really do is speculate. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But before I go, I just wanted to say thank you guys for sticking with me to the end. It's been so much fun making these videos, and I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider it. I'm working on my first goal of 100 subs, and I need all the help I can get. Thanks guys. Peace.